Welcome to the Bibbidi Bobbidi Basics podcast, a lifestyle podcast with a magical twist. I'm your host, Caitlin May, and I'm a self-proclaimed Disney adult and childless millennial who is obsessed with Harry Potter, Florida Sunshine, and all things basic. Here on the podcast, I chat weekly about everything Disney, Harry Potter, theme park news, and navigating my basic late 20s life. Back, Magical Basics. Happy Halloween. I hope your October has been magical and spooky. So let me know what your Halloween plans are by commenting on this video or reaching out to us on our socials. If you are listening, I would love to hear all about your plans. This week's guest was such a pleasure to hang out with, and I can't wait for you to hear her episode. But first, here is the Bibbidi Bobbidi broadcast. Over to Epcot, Festival of the Arts. Dates have officially been announced. They are starting January 14th and lasting through February 21st. Disney on Broadway will also be returning for the festival. We are waiting on more details about who will be performing this year, but the minute we know, we will let you guys know as well. Insanely exciting news out of Epcot. Filming for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind has begun. The coaster seems to be nearly completed, and the news of filming has us feeling hopeful that we will get a set-in-stone release date very, very soon, so stay tuned for that. Moving over to the West Coast and to Disneyland, Disneyland's Christmas Parade has dates and times on the schedule now. It will be from November 12th through January 9th at 3 and 5:30 p.m. And surprising news, Disneyland Dream Key has officially sold out. Now, this is the only tier of the new annual pass system that included both free parking and no blackout dates. So the only remaining tiers for purchase are Believe, Enchant, and Imagine Key. A breakdown of each tier is going to be linked down below if that is something you are interested in for Disneyland. On to Disney Cruise Line. Disney Cruise Line has announced that they will have a float in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The float will look just like the Disney Wish and will include 15 Disney characters. The complete list of everything new coming to Disney Plus in November dropped a couple days ago, and we are here to tell you the highlights. Some of the most exciting titles include Jungle Cruise, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, Hawkeye, and the Beatles Get Back documentary. Disappointing news out of the Marvel Universe. Several upcoming projects have all been given updated, delayed release dates. This includes Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor, Love and Thunder, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. That also includes the new Indiana Jones. I know that that is not in the Marvel Universe, but Disney has delayed production on that film as well. No news yet as to why for the delays, but as always, I will keep you updated. We've been waiting, and it is finally here. We have a complete list of all of the character meet and greets returning to the Disney parks. Now, I will say, complete list does not mean a lot. Complete list, in this case, means the barest of minimums. Magic Kingdom Park will get a Cinderella, Elena, Rapunzel, Tiana, and Mickey meet and greets. And Hollywood Studios will get Minnie and Disney Junior Pals. No meet and greets yet for Epcot or for Disney's Animal Kingdom. Sleigh rides are returning to Fort Wilderness from December 1st through the 30th. They're $75 per ride. And additionally, at the beginning of 2022, Fort Wilderness and Port Orleans will bring back horse-drawn carriage rides. Moving on to our basic news stories of the week. Goodbye Facebook and hello Metaverse. probably the dumbest news article this week is the upcoming rebrand of Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg wants to transition from Facebook being primarily social media to an entire metaverse, whatever that means to the average English speaker. No doubt that this has something to do with backing away from negative fake news press and lawsuits. I personally don't use Facebook anymore, but if you do, I would love to know what you think about all of this. Our last story of the broadcast, forget Groundhog's Day, Magic 8 Balls, and horoscopes. We now have a new way to tell if things are going our way or if today will be a great day. And that something is a 13-year-old pug named Noodle. The latest TikTok trend is watching this little pug decide if it will be a no bones or a bones day. So be sure that you are tuning into TikTok to see if Noodle decides to stand up that day. And if it is a bones day, that is definitely something to celebrate. So that is it for this week's broadcast. Let's go into the interview portion of this episode. This was such a special episode for me to record. My new friend Maia is the guest on the podcast this week, and she started out as a listener, and it was just one of the most fun conversations I have had in a long time. And for her to start off listening and to hear what Bibbidi Bobbidi Basics has meant to her was just so magical. So I'm very excited for you to hear this interview. Let's get on into the episode. If you enjoyed the podcast, please, as always, share it with someone that you think would love it too. And I will see you next Wednesday. Let's get into the episode after our break. Hello, Magical Basics. Have you been thinking about starting your own podcast, but you don't really know where to begin? I completely understand, because when Bibbidi Bobbidi Basics first launched, I felt the same exact way. Thank goodness I had Anchor to help me. If you've never heard of Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. I know what you're thinking. Katie, is it really that easy? Oh, it is. So let me tell you how. First, it's completely free. We love that. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And then Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's literally everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you so much to Anchor for sponsoring this episode. Maia, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I feel like this is so special because I used to, not gonna lie, I would always listen in when I was like going on a walk, going on a run, on the treadmill, and like actually being able to, I don't know, talk with you here. It's like it's so crazy how that works.
Wait, that makes me so happy. Oh my gosh. That literally just brought me so much joy to actually like come full circle now and be able to interact with like a real listener.
No, seriously, like I would be, especially during the winter. So I live in New England. So we had some rough storms these past couple years. And I remember listening in, especially this past winter, especially with quarantine, everything and all that stuff still happening. So I would listen in. It would be, I remember this vividly, very cold, gray day, but I would still go out. I had my snow boots on. I was like channeling Orlando. I was like palm trees, sun, the castle. And then I would just listen in, and it was the best.
Oh, that literally makes me so happy. That is like such a big goal to actually like have this pod bring like joy and magic to people, even if you aren't able to live here in Orlando and close to the magic. So that just warms my heart so much that you had that experience with us and now you're here on the podcast.
I know. I'm actually so excited. I still can't believe it's happening. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Well, I want to get into more about you. Let's hear more about Maia, because you launched a podcast recently too, and that's something that's so exciting.
I did. I know. Again, still kind of surreal that all this stuff is happening. So, yeah, so a little bit about me. I recently just graduated college. I went to school in,
Congratulations.
thank you. I know it's so funny. Like 4 years just goes by like in a snap. But yeah,
Literally.
so I just graduated. I went to school in New England. So I went to study for business and also Spanish. I studied abroad. It was a really an interesting time, and I found that my interests were really more aligned with anything creative, as you can tell
Hmm.
by the fact that I'm on a Disney and Universal themed podcast. It's
Very,
most of my
it's a
interests
very
align
creative
more on the
space
creative
over
side.
here.
Yeah, I know, right? Like I just find that like my creative side really flourishes, but I love having some sort of business regimen behind it to kind of drive it. So the reason why I started my podcast is because I really wanted to dive into the craft of creation. And for me, I'm a writer, so I like to think about the craft of writing. So from novels and then film development, but then I'm also a big pop culture like geek and junkie. So that kind of that infuses into storytelling as well, because that really is what
Hmm.
Disney is all about and what Universal
Yeah.
is all about. It's an immersion factor, and it's a story from the second you step on property. So that's why I
Yeah.
think that they really go hand in hand. So it's kind of a mixed bag of a podcast why I started it, and really just being able to listen to so many other conversations. I really wanted to start having my own because I was like, it was almost as if I was listening to a podcast, and then I would pause it to be like, oh, this is what I would say in this moment because I had this really good thought that I want to just add. So then I was
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna stop like talking to myself on my phone, and then also now we're just gonna start our own podcast so that we can have these
Yeah.
actual conversations. So I'm not just talking to no one. So it was kind of just all those forces in the universe just kind of collided all at once, and I think having some time off of being off of school really allowed me to dive into that. So I started picking up my writing a lot more, doing some really exciting projects, and hopefully some things will be brought to fruition very soon. So I'm just very excited to start, continue on with the podcast and also start my journey as news drop a DCPer. I'm very excited about that. Very,
Yeah.
very
Oh
new
my
things happening.
gosh.
So it's a lot, but it's very exciting. And I'm just excited to be here and to talk Disney with you.
Oh, I love it so much. I think my favorite thing about the concept of your podcast, though, is because it's such a mixed bag. Because Jonathan and I talk about this all the time. And even one of the guests that we've had on the podcast already, she's a photographer here in Orlando. We were talking about just how vital it is to surround yourself with creatives, even if they're not in the same creative space as you. Like, I might not be a writer, but it's still nice to surround yourself with someone in the creative writing space. But yet it's so hard to find and it's hard to find a creator community, especially when you're in a new city or you just are starting out in the creator world. It can be really overwhelming to be like, okay, I know who my people are, I just need to find them now. So I love that your podcast is basically like that. It can be that meeting point for other people. Like, oh my gosh, I loved what she had to say. I'm totally going to reach out to her. I would have never known she existed if Maia hadn't brought her on. So I love that it's like a little mixed bag of creatives.
Oh, thank you. No, and I hope that's what it really turns out to be. Because I think about it, when you think of like a movie and how all that comes
Hmm.
together, of course, a lot of credit goes to the story creators, so the screenwriters, but then there's also set designers and prop enthusiasts and and directors and extras. And it's like you have all these different roles that really
Hmm.
make up the feeling that gets transmitted when you actually see a final product of a movie, for example. So it's the same thing with
Yeah.
creatives. I think it's just this wide community, and for me, I don't like pigeonholing myself into really anything. So yes, I am a writer, but I'm not just a writer of novels. I'm a screenwriter. So, and then I also want to be a producer. So it's kind of just a mixed bag of roles that are all interconnected because they're all connected to the same source of storytelling and the why and the values. And really it just all connects into one to the same source, which is why I think that you can't pigeonhole a creative anyway. So
Hmm.
that's why
Yeah.
it's kind of a cheat for me to be like, oh yeah, it's a mixed bag. So I get to, pull and pick and choose where I get to, where my topics go. So that's why they like to range from kind of the technical and the tactical to something that's more kind of a personal interest of mine anyway. So Disney and
Mm-hmm.
immersion and storytelling that way. So it really is all connected. But I use it as a cheat to be like, yeah, there's just multiple branches, and we just get to branch off and go in different directions. But that way, it keeps it fun and fresh and interesting too.
Yeah, I love that. So, Disney obviously is such a huge passion. And you told me something very exciting off camera just before this. So, do you want to fill the listeners in on your very exciting news?
Yes. So just recently, I got accepted to the Disney College program. Honestly, wasn't expecting it, wasn't really planning for it too much. I kind of just saw the application and I was like, this is one of those once in a lifetime things. And my
Mhm.
fingers are just kind of on the keyboard. I was like, you know what? We're just gonna resume. There we go, and then apply. And then a couple days later, it was an acceptance, and I just kind of stood there and I was like, I don't really know what to do with this, but I'm really excited. So then and then I think it was just like that moment when you get news and then you kind of just freeze up. So then, 20 minutes later, I kind of digested that and I was just like, wow, oh my God, this is actually happening. And then everything's kind of snowballed from that. And I still really don't know what I'm doing yet. So things are kind of still like on the down low, I guess, with that. But it's so exciting to know that I have friends down there that are actually in the program right now. So I have friends I'm already going to see and then new friends I'm going to meet. And I'm just so excited because I remember actually, we were talking off camera about our shared love of Figment. I remember being in the
Yeah.
Figment, like coming off the ride and going right into the gift shop when I was younger. And some girl was working at the register and she was saying, yeah, I get to spend my whole semester here at Disney. And I was like, oh, I would love to do that. And then once, I just graduated college, so I don't have to worry about classes. I can just enjoy
Yeah.
myself. So I'm really excited. It's one of those things that you don't necessarily plan for, but when it happens, it
Mhm.
kind of just has this magical aura around it. So I don't know. It's again, it's still so fresh and so new that I still can't fully like believe it yet. I don't know. It's bizarre, but I'm excited. And it's in less than 20 days now. I head off to Florida. So I'm very excited. I'm not gonna miss the New England cold. I love New England, but I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm okay with like, not doing a blizzard this year.
Yeah, I was about to say, and you're kind of getting out just in time.
Yeah, I'll miss fall. I mean, I love fall, so I'm gonna try and get as much
Mhm.
fall as I can. Go apple picking, do the pumpkin patch, but after that, I'll be like, okay, once it gets cold and dreary and the sun sets at like 3, I'm out. Like I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Have you gotten any details? Like, do you know your work assignment? Like where you'll be, what park?
We don't know that yet. I There's a chance I'll probably be, I mean, they kind of like slip us some information during our onboarding that it's not exact yet and everything's always still to be determined and can change. But mine
Yeah,
right
for
now
sure.
says sales and merchandise. So I might be in merchandise, which I'm actually very excited about. Very, very excited about. So
Yes.
hopefully, that kind of stays in that area. Again, anything can happen, but I'll definitely keep you updated with what happens on that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I am manifesting the Figment gift shop for you.
I know,
I
right?
just
Like
feel
I'm
like
like I'm
that would be
there.
the
Like give me
most
the rainbows, give
perfect
me the dragon
little
ears.
yes. That would be the most perfect little full circle moment is
Wouldn't
you
it? Oh my
like
gosh, if I was in Epcot, like that's it. That's the end of the day for me. I'm there. I love
right?
it.
Honestly, I have heard that that park is like the place to work. Like all of my friends who've done DCP and who have worked at Disney are like, yeah, like shoot for Epcot if you ever
Yeah,
if you ever try and come on. I'm like, that's fair. But
it's one of
also
my
like,
favorite parks. It's definitely one of my favorite parks. I
oh,
think. I mean, it's probably my
1000%.
top two. If I had to choose like two of my favorite parks in Florida, it would probably be my top two.
What would be your other one?
I feel like it would be Magic Kingdom would be my first one,
Mhm.
but like yeah, I think if I was just doing Disney, I would say Magic Kingdom and Epcot were my first two, though they would be tied. I think actually now that I think about it, they would both be tied because I can't really decide between both. I was kind of one of those. I mean, for younger, I know a lot of people say don't bring younger kids necessarily to Epcot if you want them to have like I guess an enjoyable time or to be consistently entertained. But I kind of disagree with that
Right.
because I think that you know not all kids need, are all kids are different and every kid has a different interest. So when I was younger, I really loved the cultural aspects of World Showcase.
Mhm.
I remember being 9 years old and being like, I want to go to the English tea shop and get tea. that was like, $20 like more than what I probably could get at the grocery store, but like whatever. It was,
Right.
it was like every kid has something different that interests them. So I always loved going there when I was younger. And because I kind of had that nostalgia factor, my first trip, that's what kind of snowballed into it being a top favorite. And I mean, I love Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios too, but I think Magic Kingdom and Epcot for me were always my favorites, just for out of
Mhm.
personal interest.
Yeah, for sure. So, your favorite Disney park, let's talk about your favorite Disney film.
It's so hard. It's also hard now because they own like half of everything. It's like
Mhm.
it's like, oh, they own that and they own that or they bought that. So I'm gonna stick with like memory childhood films that I would always watch because what they acquire now is their own thing. So what used to be not Disney and now is Disney, I'm not gonna count because that's just too
Yeah,
much.
that's fair. That's
There,
fair.
there's so much. So I think for me that I would always watch as a kid, very funny. My siblings and I, we would have. So I'm in the unique Gen Z phase where it's like I grew up with iPhones, but we also grew up with VHS tapes and DVDs.
Right, you
So like
teeter
we
that
have the mixed
line.
bag, So we got the like we're still a little bit 90s, a little bit early 2000s. So we're that like unique group in between that kind of got the mix of both. So we would have like our, the bookcase of VHS tapes and DVDs,
Yeah.
mostly VHS at the time. And we would always kind of pick like three that we would all really want. So me, my sister, my brother, and then we would all close our eyes and have to like shuffle them around and then pick one. So I don't know why we always land on a one. We always have like the same three in the same stack. So it would be like Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and The Lion King. Obviously, like Renaissance phase, so like probably like the better movies in my opinion.
Right,
So I
100%.
think I think the one that I would probably land on the most for my favorite would be Aladdin. I think it's just because I love Jasmine because I kind of thought she was like more confident than a lot of the other Disney
Mhm.
princesses than
For
than
sure.
others. So I think she just had more sass, and I really like that. But then also the music, just kind of swept me away, and I think that's probably like the music I could listen to, like put that on like while you're in the shower and just jam out to it. And then also in Disneyland, they used to have, I don't know if they still have it anymore. They had so live performances of Aladdin a lot of the times. I can't remember what
Oh,
the theater's
yeah.
name was, but it was in California Adventure actually. So they would have live performances of Aladdin, and it was just one of those like Broadway level caliber shows that was absolutely
Mhm.
amazing, and it just brought it to life in a different way. So I think for me, those stories always kind of connected, and I always wanted to be Jasmine for Halloween too because I loved her outfit and her like, I just loved it so much. Yeah, I think it would be Aladdin now that I'm really thinking about it because I love it in live action and I love it animated. And I think it can be just done so many ways. I really think there's something about the Renaissance period of Disney films that really just change things.
Yes, I agree. I was gonna ask you what you felt about the live action Aladdin.
Yeah, that one's actually different. I love Will Smith. I think Will Smith made it for me. The rest of it, I mean, I could go either way. It wasn't my favorite live action that they've done for films, but or like adaptation of films, but
Mhm.
I didn't not enjoy it. I heard other people were like, "Yeah, we turned it off halfway through." I was like, "I wouldn't do that because like Will Smith is awesome."
Yeah, I
Like,
yeah, I did not get that vibe. Like, was I obsessed with it? No, but like I thought it was great. I thought it was pleasant. Will Smith was a very like pleasant surprise because it's so hard to walk in Robin Williams shoes. So like he already had more than his work cut out for him. On top of the pressure of everybody being like, "Oh, well, he's no Robin Williams." And I liked the feminist aspect that they gave Jasmine. Like, I feel like even more so in the live action.
yeah, definitely. They definitely made it a point in the live action to like make her more feminist, but again, it was just like the overall vibe was good. I watched it, but it wasn't something that I would always return to. I think for me also live action when it's really hard for me for live action to top the original. It's like anything. It's hard for anything to like top another thing that you already have such a
Mhm.
connection to. But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's not good and great quality. I think actually one of my favorite things about the live action was the ending scene. It was almost like the credit scene because you know how like
Oh,
when you're watching
yeah.
like musicals and at the end they do like the cheering, the bowing, but it's usually to like a song. And that's what it felt like. It was like they were doing, I can't remember what song they were doing it to, but it was like the dancing and the fun. And I think it just brings a liveliness out of it. So I think that's probably why
Mhm.
I love that movie and or just why I really connect to it always, just because there's just a consistent thread of something that brings it back, whether it's the music or the characters and the emotion. I think that was probably one of my yeah, it's probably one of like my most like formative movies I ever, watched and will keep going back to.
Yeah. No, I love that. So, let's pivot to LOL, pivot. It's a Friends theme. I just got that. I did not mean to do that. But let's talk about Harry Potter now. What I would love to know what your Hogwarts house is.
So, okay. I didn't really get into Harry Potter until I was a little bit older because when I was younger, I don't know what it was. I either had trouble reading the books or couldn't get into them or thought they were too like scary. I don't know what it was, but I just didn't have like the affinity for it until maybe I was in like early high school. And I think
Mhm.
when it really kicked in was when I went to Harry Potter World or obviously Wizarding World. I think that was when it really kicked in. I was like, I want to, read these books more, watch the movies more. My siblings loved it, but I didn't really get into it until I went there and then I saw the immersion. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Got my wand, got my butterbeer. It's great. And then once I started getting into it, I went on Pottermore a lot and I was always like playing with the games. I think I wanted when I was younger to be in Ravenclaw because I was like, oh, they're like they get like straight A's. And that was like me as a kid. I was very much like the honor student and would always be like that. But I think now my personality, if I'm really honest about it, my personality falls in the line between like Hufflepuff and Gryffindor because I like to take a lot of action and be very
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm very like and like have to be hands-on with things. So I'm not a control freak, but I just like to be doing things. But then I'm also kind of just I love to have fun and just be playful too. So I think I'm the mix between Gryffindor and Hufflepuff. If I don't know if I could choose one. If I could really only choose one, I would probably do Gryffindor, but I'm gonna blend them, so I'm gonna say Gryffindor.
I love that. I love that for you. I definitely get like major Gryffindor vibes from you. Like, I really, really do. Just like from like just your initiative, like emailing me about this interview and like listening to your episode, like you are right. You do have this very like take charge. I'm just like, I'm gonna like go out there and like put myself out there and I love that. I love that about you.
I know it's like it's kind of funny. I never thought of myself as a Gryffindor. I think you know why? Because I think it's so like the default one that everyone's like, oh, I'm Gryffindor. Like because everyone
Mm,
in Harry Potter, like 90% of people in Harry Potter books are Gryffindor or Slytherin. Like it's not really that balanced. So
yeah.
for me, I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not gonna be basic. I'm gonna be Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff. And then I was like, but I'm really not like Ravenclaw anymore. Like I used to be very much, but like now I'm like no, like I've left that part of me behind. But now I'm definitely
Yeah,
like
that's
definitely you need a little Hufflepuff. I feel like everyone needs a little Hufflepuff in them. Needs to lighten them
I
up.
agree. My secondary house is also Hufflepuff, so I agree with that. We all need a little Hufflepuff in our life. So let's get into arguably my favorite part of the new layout for the episodes, and that is our lightning round. So Jonathan is gonna put 2 minutes on the clock, and I have just a bunch of questions randomized, and we'll give you 2 minutes to answer. And if you want to skip, just say skip, and we'll kind of go through and see how many you can rapid fire at us. Cool?
That sounds good. I'm ready.
Okay, I'm excited. Jonathan is 2 minutes on the clock. All right. Okay, so according to Walt Disney, which scene in a classic Disney princess movie was his favorite piece of animated work?
Ooh, let's say either Sleeping Beauty or Snow White.
Oh, very, very close. It's Cinderella's dress transformation.
Oh, that's a good that I never heard it before, but
Iconic.
the era.
Yes, iconic. Okay, favorite Pixar film?
Toy Story 2.
Okay. Hot take. Um, who was the only, oh no. Favorite Disney park? You gotta choose one.
Disneyland.
You said Magic Kingdom. Oh, okay. Okay. I would agree with that. Which villain would you party with?
Maleficent.
Oh, good choice. Good choice. Disney film that you find boring.
The Great Mouse Detective.
Oh, that's kind
I
of made
love it,
my
but it's
heart
a
sad a
little
little bit.
it's a little bit dark too.
It is very dark. Which Disney villain could you be in a committed relationship with?
Mm, mm, mm. I feel like Darth Vader would be a little bit creepy, a little bit sketch, so I'm gonna skip.
Oh no, I would choose Darth Vader in a hot second. Um, why is it all the villain questions? Least favorite Disney song?
Mm. Oh, I don't know. Oh, that is so hard. I'm trying to think
I
of which
know.
ones I don't like. It might be something from Someday My Prince Will Come. I don't like that song. Sorry. It's
Yeah.
a little bit
No,
it's just not it's not the vibe of 2021.
no, that's fair. Okay, so that's the timer, but let's do one last final question. Underrated Disney film.
Underrated? Ooh. Oh my gosh, that is a hard question. I feel like Dory doesn't get enough love. I don't know. I feel like
Oh
that might
yeah.
be a hot
No,
take,
I agree.
you know? I feel like it was
The
great,
Finding
but I think
Dory
it was just
film.
kind of passed over.
I agree. I low key almost liked it better than Finding Nemo.
I think so too. I mean, I love Nemo, but like, I don't know. Sometimes it's a little bit. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Everyone has different like hot takes and opinions on all these things, but it comes down to what can you watch over and over again. And for me, I think I would watch Dory more often. Maybe just because
I
Ellen is,
agree.
stellar. But
Queen. So let's talk a little bit about just like Disney and Universal more in depth. So I would love to hear about the first time that you went to Disney and to Universal.
okay, so I started out going to Disneyland and Universal Hollywood. So I had family in California, and it's funny because I would go from the East Coast to the West Coast before I ever
Yeah,
even
for
went to
real.
Florida. I would go to California consistently. So we started going to Disneyland. So that's why it's my favorite Disney park because it's my first park that I ever went to. So I have fond memories of that. My first time, I think I was 3 or 4. We had, it was one of those. I wasn't really I don't know if I was, like, aware that I was going to Disney. I was like it was just kind of like the thing that you do, but what the thing
Mhm.
that you do became for us kind of a tradition instead. So instead of being, like, something to check off the list, it became this destination that I would always wanna go back to. My first time, I was there with, my brother, my dad, and my sister, and it was kind of one of those trips that was very needed. We had some rough stuff going on in our life at that time, and I think that Disney kind of gave us that sense of serenity and fun. And we still have all these
Mhm.
pictures around our house. So like the first time we were there, I had this wacky hair. Like I don't know what my hair was doing when I was 3 years old. I had like this weird curly like blob on my head, but it's amazing because when I look at those pictures, there's me and I'm having like my ice cream in the airport and I'm having fun. And I think for me, my first trip to Disney was something that really, like, stuck in my mind because when I was in Disneyland, there were a few rides that I was like I used to be so scared of roller coasters and anything in rides, um, but those rides really kind of introduced me to making me feel more confident that I could think, "Oh, I could do this, I
Mhm.
can do that," and I think also when I went to Disney, it helped spark that imagination back to my mind. I was like, "This is real, this
Mhm.
can be real, storytelling is alive, and it's not just in books and not just in movies, and there's different ways to experience it." And so my first time then in Universal too was actually very interesting because Universal Hollywood Studios is way, way, way different than Universal Orlando. Not Hollywood Studios, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I
Universal
hear. I
Hollywood,
haven't ever
I
been to
was like,
Hollywood.
yeah. So it's so different than Orlando. Orlando's great, for the rides and the immersion that they definitely built in over the past couple of years, but Hollywood's way different because they have you can actually go you're in, like, Burbank, and you can actually go into movie sets, and I think for me, I was like, "Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh, this
love
is
that.
amazing," and again, that's for something that sparked something in me when I was 4 years old that I want to be a
Mhm.
creator and a writer. That's someone that just puts together these, amazing spectacles. So for me, those were like just absolutely magical times. And then when I went to Florida a few years later, when I was like 6 or 7, went to Disney World and did all of that. But then I think I just have a special place in my heart for California because it was my first park, and that's where the magic kind of started for me. But I think that
Yeah.
not one is not better than the other, in my opinion. I think they're both definitely separate.
Yeah, they definitely have a very different vibe. California has such a special place in my heart too. It's just it's there's just something so special and magical about it being the first, and you feel like Walt everywhere in the park, and there's a couple people that are like, "Oh, but it's so small and like it's kind of underwhelming." Like if you've gone to Disney World first and you go to California and like after you've gone to Disney World, like, yes, of course, it's not on the scale that Disney World is, but I did not find that its smallness was a negative factored for it. Like, I was like, it feels so charming and like just homey and cozy. And yeah, I love Disneyland so much. So why do you think Disney is so special to you?
I think it's because I think a big part of it is nostalgia. Just I think a lot of it is nostalgia coming back to it, like coming back to those early memories and then wanting to recreate those. But I think why it continues to be special is because it's always evolving and it's always changing. And it never goes stale for me. There's always a few classics and
Mm,
always a few staples that I'll always do, but there's always so many new things that you can do and explore. And I mean, just look at the past couple years, like the additions that we've gotten. We've gotten Galaxy's Edge on both coasts. We have Toy Story Land, and
mhm,
there's more stuff coming both to Disney and to Universal. And it's just
mhm.
there's so much stuff that always changes. And I think they are doing a lot better now with kind of changing with the times, both just in the parks and then in their storytelling states and movies and shows that they're coming out with. I think they're really moving with the times and kind of giving people more of, real life as it is in 2021. So I think that also
Yeah.
translates into, again, the rethemings that they'll do in the parks. So I think for me, it's something that it never goes stale. It's never dull. So when someone says, "Oh, you're going to Disney again," I always get that. It's like, "Oh, you're going to Disney. Oh," and like the other person's not really a Disney fan, or they don't follow up with it. They think it's Magic Kingdom and it's a small world on like a loop 24/7. That's
Over
all
and over
Disney is all the
again,
time,
yeah.
and that's all it'll ever be. It's like, no, that's so not true. There's so much going on. Like I have to convince my parents, like, or my dad's very much into Disney, but my mom hasn't been to Disney since she was, like, 17, and she's not a ride person. I was like, "Mom, you're gonna love Epcot. Like, I can take you around, we can
Mhm.
do, like, wine samplings, and then you can try all these different foods from different countries." And I think there's something for everyone, and there's something that everyone can experience together. So, I don't know, I just think it's a once in a lifetime experience for some people, but it's also kind of a way of life for others, in terms
Mhm.
of it's always a story that you get to play with, and you get to be kind of a grown up in a playground, and you get to be a kid in a
Yeah.
playground. So it's for all ages, and again, it's always evolving. There's always something new to do, and there's always stuff that you can always go back to that you enjoyed when you were younger too.
Yeah, for sure. So let's piggyback off of that. Is that why obviously Disney touches so many different people? And I love what you just said. For some people, it's gonna be that once in a lifetime thing, and then for others, it's going to be a way of life. Um, but why do you think it is that Disney is so important to so many people from across the board?
I think that's actually really cool. It's like one of those places, the very few places on earth where millions of people feel like it's their second home. Like, so
Mm,
many people go there and it's okay, I mean, obviously there's Disney Vacation Club, so that's actually a second home. But like,
that
you know
is
what I mean?
goals.
Like they always say welcome home to them. So it's like it is really their home. But I mean, you have that, but I mean, you could speak English or you could not even speak English, but but two people can still bond over riding Pirates of the Caribbean. You can still bond over having that
Yeah.
same experience from, I mean, I love It's a Small World. It's a little bit controversial now because everyone's like, "Why wait, like, an hour to just hear the song on loop?" But, like, I would do it because I love it, or go on Figment. Like, it's everyone can have
Right.
multiple people can have the same experience and the shared experience with other people, even though you might come from different walks of life or you speak different languages. And another thing
Mhm.
that's just so amazing is that the magic, that sense of magic, it doesn't start, with one culture and end with another. It's everyone has that same sense of magic, and I think a lot of storytelling values, I mean, that's pretty much what Disney is. The storytelling values from the second you step on property, they affect everyone, and they're not just meant for one person or for one demographic. They reach everyone because those storytelling values of magic and fun and wonder and curiosity, they're universal across all cultures. So I
Mhm.
think that's why so many people from across the world will come there. I think for a lot of people, it's just this idealized place where they want to see it. But I think what draws people back are the values and the sense of fun and wondering and magic. And I honestly think that when their brand reputation is founded on creating magical experiences, they're not just saying that just to say it. It's everyone I think that has gone to Disney at least once or a couple times. You can pinpoint a few moments where you had that magical moment, whether a cast member actually made something happen for you, or you just witnessed something. Maybe you just saw the
Mhm.
castle for the first time and you're just like, wow, this is really amazing. Like I'm actually in a story right now. Or you see someone that's dressed in costume and maybe on screen you hadn't seen people that looked like you for a really long time, but then all of a sudden when you're in the parks, you see someone that looks like you and you can actually resonate with and kind of seems like maybe came from your part of walk of life. So it's just
Mhm.
there's greater, I think, now, which is really amazing, representation. I think we still need to keep on that track for sure. But I
Yeah,
think
for
for
sure.
so many people, there's the magic and the underlying feeling of magic and wonder is there, and now we're just building on top of it with just greater representation, and then you just feel this sense of inclusivity growing there ever since that there was the magic and wonder that started it, but now we're snowballing in. I think that's probably what draws people back and why it draws so many people from so many countries back there too.
Yeah, no, I absolutely completely agree 1000%. All right, so let's end on one of the most fun questions I think of the pod. And we're of course you know that we are called Bippity Boppity Basics. We love our Harry Potter and Disney, but we also just love kind of reclaiming the word basic from the slightly negative connotation that it has and kind of celebrating the fact that we can come together and be basic together. So tell me about a specific time in your life that you thought to yourself, "This is the most basic thing I've ever done."
Mhm. I'm here with you on the celebrating the basic because I think it's a shared ritual that we all have with each other that like we either want to admit or not. So I think we should celebrate it. For me, I'm gonna bring it Disney related. So I think it would be, and thank you to my dad who will willingly go along with anything when he goes to a Disney park with me, because I'm large and in charge when we're there together. So it would probably be planning my Epcot day around getting the lighting right at the purple wall, just because you gotta capture at the right moment. And if you're not there at the right moment, then it gets busy, then it gets crowded, and then the stuff
Yep.
grows, and then it's raining. So it's like gotta time it right, almost like when Fast Pass was used to be a thing, having to time that right.
Mhm.
But it is now. It's pretty much my own a separate attraction. I feel like they're probably gonna start a queue for it.
Oh, probably. It's like it's so hard too because it's right as you exit Spaceship Earth and it's so awkward to be like trying to get your cute moment in front of the bubblegum wall and then people are exiting and you're like, I'm so sorry. You can walk ahead of me." Yeah. Like, don't mind me." It's like so like cringy because it's so basic that you're just like, this is awkward. And they're like, "Oh," and they do that weird thing where they like pause and flinch and wait, and you're like, "No, you can go."
I love it though. I love it, and I'm gonna do it when I get down there. I'm gonna have my DCP button. What am I celebrating? I'm gonna go right.
Wow, yes.
Well, I'm gonna go all the spots in every park. I'm gonna shine that button.
Yes.
I think that at that point, that would probably be my most basic thing. We'll take
I
the button, put it everywhere.
I just love that so much for you, and I just send that picture to us when you finally have it, because I just want to celebrate that on the podcast, because that is like such the epitome of like Disney basic, is like all the Instagrammable walls at every park with your little DCP button. That just makes my heart so happy.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me too. This is, again, once in a lifetime. Like, who would have thought 6 months ago? I would not have thought that I would be chatting with you and like being on your podcast. Like, this is amazing.
Oh my gosh, that makes my heart so happy. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I had the time of my life having this conversation with you.
Oh my God, me too. Like, I'll retweet that all day.
I love that so much. Thank you so much, Maia.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow the pod and let me know what you thought of today's episode. All of our links are in the show notes and description box down below. And if you're listening to today's episode, please give us a rate and review, and don't forget to include your Instagram handle to be featured as our basic of the week. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. I upload new episodes on Wednesday and other videos for more Magic Mondays. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Until then, Basics, stay magical.